Welcome, everyone, to Already Cancelled. I am Peter. I'm joined by Tara, and we are going to talk about the Twilight Zone Season 3, Episode 5. It's called A Game of Pool. So full spoilers for the episode, as always. And the premise of this one is really simple. A pool player named Jesse is very avid about being the best, but he feels the shadow of this legend who passed away a few years ago. This Fats Brown, who was the best, and no matter where he goes, whatever pool hall he goes into, Fats Brown's name is brought up. Yeah, I mean, you're a great kid, but you know, we'll never know if you were better than Fats Brown. And Fats Brown was the best pool player that ever lived. So he's monologuing about this. I'll be honest, I actually thought it was going to reveal who he was talking to after a minute, and then realised, oh no, he's just monologuing to himself. But Fats Brown, or the ghost of Fats Brown, comes back to life to challenge him to a pool game so he can find out once and for all if he is indeed the best. It's that simple. That's the whole premise. So, Tara, what did you think of A Game of Pool?
I really liked this episode. Simple premise, but I was drawn in, and I actually remember watching this one from before. Yeah, I really like it. I like the performances a lot. I like the idea of, like, you know, trying to become the best at something so that you are remembered for it. And then there's, I don't know, like, that's why people want to be immortalized, so they leave something behind when they die. But then that comes back in this. I like this episode.
Yeah. I think you have to like the performances because they have to carry so much of it, because it is just the two of them in one room the entire time. I also like the episode. I think the performances are what make it for the most part, and you know, it's raising some interesting points. There is some surprises though. And not so much the surprise in like a twisty way, but more just I knew what the premise of the episode was from last week, and I was like, yeah, that sounds very Twilight Zone. You know, the dead pool player shows up and challenges him, and obviously some point is going to be made by the end as to kind of his drive and ambition and maybe why it's a bad thing or whatever. What I was not expecting is it to literally cut to pool heaven, where he's sitting at a pool table surrounded by clouds, and there's like a PA voice going, Mr. Fats, you've got an appointment in St. Louis.
I know, I thought that was so silly, but it comes back later, so like it is kind of necessary to be there for the sort of twist at the end.
What's interesting is that I actually noticed, because I'm watching the Blu-rays of these, is that there was an alternate ending which the footage doesn't exist, but there's like a sort of like a, I don't know who it is that's reading it out, but someone reads the alternate ending, and the alternate ending did not have them going back to heaven at the end. In fact, it kind of ended without the game really ending. I'll explain it when we actually get to it, just so I can.
You know, I was thinking that might be how it was going to end when I was watching it, and how that would be a very good point to make. But yeah, yes, I understand.
Yeah. So yeah, the first chunk of the episode is, you know, the arrival of the Deadpool player of Fats, and him sort of raising.
You keep saying Deadpool.
Dead pool player.
Right.
Fats. I'm sorry. I'll emphasize the pause. It just puts a
different image in my head. I'm not even like a big Deadpool fan.
Yeah, I don't think I like anyone who's a big Deadpool fan. Like,
I don't think I do either.
It's alright if you're if you the movies are all right and you've read maybe a little Deadpool. Sure, you're probably okay. But if you're a big Deadpool fan, I probably don't like you very much. I must say that's 100% certainty, but it's fairly likely. Anyway, so he raises this challenge, and Jesse really wants to do it. He wants to prove himself. And Fats is like, well, okay, so if you really want to do it, but we have to raise the stakes. We have to make it interesting. And, you know, you said you'd do anything for this, so it has to be a game of life and death. If you lose, you die. And if you win, you get to live. And because the first half really kind of like points out his obsession, where he as he's trying to convince him to stay and play when Fats is about to leave, he mentions that, you know, he's made a deal with the owner of the hall to practice after the place closes. He doesn't go on dates. He doesn't go to the movies. He's not done anything social in years. He just he comes here and he practices because he's determined to be the best.
He's determined to be the best at something.
Yeah.
It just seems that it might be pool.
Yeah,
But
pool was the thing he found that he thought he could latch on to, and he stuck with it. I know. Now I'm thinking of it. I'm like, is this like what inspired Whiplash? Is this the Twilight Zone that inspired the entire premise of Whiplash?
I guess I don't know if I'm really following.
Well, just this idea of the obsession to be the best and like doing it at all costs, and is that really worth it? Like that's definitely a theme of this episode. Admittedly, there's not a scene where Fats throws the triangle at his head and says, that's not my tempo. But it might have been a good scene though if they'd put that in there. But so he eventually agrees, and that's kind of the ad break. The ad break is quite early in this one. It's like around the 9-minute mark, but it makes sense because of course you have it when they agree to play, and then you come back and it's time to actually to play.
For some reason, I didn't have an intro in this episode. I don't know if it's just the CBS app, but when you say, I didn't get the intro.
When you say intro, do you mean like the music and the title?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Right. I was gonna say because the Rod Serling bits, like the camera pans over to him and he's in the room with a pool cue.
Yeah, I saw that, and then I was expecting like, is there a spiral at the beginning? And then it didn't show. It just cut to the episode title name.
It's so weird how CBS All Access seems to have just like edited random, not the core episode, but just like these things at the start and the end where it'll just randomly cut them out. That's odd.
I don't know.
That's really odd. But
they keep making me new Star Trek, so I'm gonna keep giving them my money.
so they play the game. I actually didn't quite. I'm not as familiar with the rules they play because I know 9-ball and 8-ball pretty well, but they play like a point system. They have to get up to, like it was 300 points, I think they said, however many frames that takes, and they set up, and it's just interesting. I actually kind of like this at the start where they're talking about, okay, so Fats has to break, and that's a disadvantage because you break the set, and but then the other players gets wide open. They get to just start potting balls, and he does this light little break where just one ball just slightly moves. He's like, well, I guess you'll have to break them properly now. And then he kind of like does the same thing, and I was like, oh man, how long can they keep this stalemate going where they just don't move the balls?
Right.
That's really funny to me. But the game gets going. It's this weird thing where Jesse seems to like get like this giant lead, like he's like potting tons of balls, but you get the impression that Fats is probably kind of letting him win, like he's kind of holding back.
Yeah. It didn't occur to me until like later on, until like he was maybe, I don't know, like 40 points ahead or something. I was like, is he hustling him?
Yeah, it's just so weird. But then of course once he points it out, Fats just immediately starts like potting balls left and right. And
I was just giving you an extra handicap.
Yeah. Jesse just starts like sweating and he's getting nervous, and it all boils down to this kind of they're sort of debating as they're doing it, and they're calling shots and whatever. It gets to this point where Jesse only needs to pot one more ball to win. Fats needs all 4 that's left on the table, and Jesse misses, and then Fats pots 3, so there's just one ball left, and whoever sinks it is going to win. And it comes down to this, and basically in the original ending that was read out on the extra and the Blu-ray is that it's basically left for I think it's Fats' turn he mentioned, and essentially it becomes clear that Fats is never actually going to let him die. Like he never intended to actually go through with it, and Jesse's kind of hurt by this because it means the stakes were never real, and it makes it kind of not, it makes it feel less important. And Fats just kind of leaves without the game ever actually ending. The idea being that Fats could have had it won, but he throws it, and Jesse can win if he sinks it, but he never actually does because. And I think there's something to be said about never really finding out because it's not really real if he's throwing it. Whereas the episode itself, the actual ending, I don't think actually, even though there's a reason for Fats to want to throw it, as we find out with the sort of the twist kind of ending, I don't think it kind of presents it in a way where he's definitely throwing it. It's more that he's actually just happy that someone is finally actually better, and he's finally lost the game. But Jesse does sink it, and he jumps on the table and kisses the cue ball. He's so happy that he's finally done this, that he's finally done it. But Fats tries to talk him out. He's like, hey, if you do this, like you're winning more than you bargained for. And I think I like the ending, and I like kind of the Twilight Zone kind of twist in this, where the idea being that now that he's the best, he's the ghost who's going to constantly be challenged and called up.
Yeah,
to,
he just keeps getting these pages from some angel or whatever saying, "You're being summoned again."
Yeah,
Someone
and
wants to
obviously
challenge you.
the real world metaphor of this, of course, is the idea that once you are the best, you have to keep proving it. Because what I thought the episode was really trying to get at, because the ending kind of changed it a little bit, but what I thought the episode was getting at up until that point is the idea that
You've wasted your life.
No, well, I mean that's there, but more so that he has all this determination, and he has this drive to get this done. That he may actually have nothing if he does it. Like if he beats them.
See, that's what I was thinking too. Because when they set up, there's only one ball left to sink, and it's either their game. Then he and Fats is telling him like all the things that you missed out on, like if you like, and all the things that or all the things that Fats misses about being alive, about the world, and it's not Pool. It's like all the other stuff around him, and like I thought it was leaning towards like, sure, if you get this, then it'll be over, then you're the best, and you don't really have to play anymore. Because what are you playing for now if you're not working towards anything if you're on the top?
Yeah, because essentially he's living for Pool. He's living to be the best. So if he gets to the point where he is the best, like all he can do now is lose that title, essentially. And maybe that's something, because that's the thing. That's maybe the only thing I don't like about the episode is that it presents a lot of like themes that it could go down for the ending. And while the twist at the end is kind of fun that he's now having to defend his title as a ghost, or whatever you want to call it, it does kind of like make it feel a bit more hokey to me in the sense where, well, I mean, this idea, because if we talk about this idea of achieving like a legendary status where you never truly die because people will talk your name, the episode presents it as kind of a negative thing because you're kind of called upon in death. But in a real world sense, at least as far as we know, there's no such thing. So like I
can't challenge Babe Ruth right now.
Yeah,
not that he's the best anymore, but
the negative that it presents for it, well, there is a negative in life when you're alive and all the rest of it. I understand that, and I understand what it's kind of saying there. The negative that it presents that he's kind of like upset by is like, I don't know, it's like it's not real. So it's not something that actually represents a real thing beyond just. And it's just like, now you have this burden of protecting it, but because I really thought like. Either he was going to not sink the ball because he's going to choose to like he doesn't want to know because then it's over and then he's not got the drive to keep going, or maybe he does sink it but then he actually starts to live his life because okay, I can leave this go now and I can go and maybe find someone and have a happy life and do other things. And he doesn't really do either of those things, which is interesting. He's just happy that he's finally done it, that he's won.
No, but I mean I do enjoy the like comedy part of the of how it ends up, like it's, and I actually really enjoyed watching the game. Like some of the shots were really tricky, and I don't know, I got into it.
Yes, notably, all of the fancy shots. Yeah, you only ever saw hands in those shots because they clearly had.
There's a couple where like you see them take some like easier shots, but they're like important ones, because it just. It goes from the actor down to the pool table. Yeah, but
you could tell though they had a couple of good pool players in there, like doing a lot of the
some of the shots were really tricky. Yeah.
And even the easiest shots, I did wonder like how many takes some of those took, like to make sure they like, even though it's an easy shot, if you're not like someone who plays pool regularly or you're someone who's a novice, it still might take a few tries.
Right.
And then also act, to the standard that you want to give your performance in the same take as well, which is something that they often have to do retakes of anyway. So I don't know, it's interesting. I think the strength of the episode though is that it does kind of raise a lot of interesting ideas about obsession and that strive for greatness, and I don't know if the ending actually necessarily tackles the ones that I think are more interesting, but it does raise them all and got me thinking about them. And the ending is fun and a kind of like fun Twilight Zone way of like, now he's got the burden of proving he's the best forever, which well, I mean not forever, until someone does prove he's the best. But
it's a little bit of a hokey ending, and it makes the whole episode a little bit less serious. But I still kind of enjoy it, and I enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, no, I like the contrast between them. I like the obsession of the younger guy who's trying to prove himself, and I mean they're actually like the same age, if anything, to be honest. But you know what I mean, in the sense that he's younger because he's not died yet.
And Jack Klugman, I guess he's in like 4 Twilight Zone episodes. We've already seen him once.
Yeah, I thought I recognized him. I assume he's already been in at least one.
He's in the trumpet episode.
Yeah,
Passage for Trumpet.
Yeah. As soon as you said it, I can picture him in it. Yeah, he's. And I'm pretty sure I said this maybe last week, but the old man version of him on IMDb, it looks like Dustin Hoffman, and just
I can see it. Yeah,
maybe he's his long lost half brother or something. I don't know.
Jack Klugman.
Yeah. No, I think the performances are very good. I think the contrast between them and like the wiser one who's maybe learned something about this obsession, and because I think it's this kind of idea that in real life, like people always tell kids or teenagers like, "Hey, like, trust me, listen to me. You're going to realize that some of these things aren't as important later, or you're going to realize that this is a mistake later." And it doesn't matter how hard you try; they still have to learn that mistake themselves, or they still have to go through the thing and realize that themselves, and they're never going to just take the advice of someone who's older. For most of these things, and I think that sort of spoke to me in this episode, where I could really feel kind of the two perspectives about this, and the one who had this legendary status, and he's like, yeah, I mean, I'm happy I'm the best. I like that I am, I could be called the best, but it's definitely a more conflicted approach than the obsession of this younger guy, this Jesse who's determined to prove that he is the best pool player there is. And I think it does say something. I think one of the key things that you mentioned is that he wants to be the best at something, and pool's just kind of what it ended up being, because he got a chance to maybe learn how to do that. I think that maybe shows you kind of how hollow it is, in a sense, that it says, oh, it just has to be something. It's not just that. It's not that he specifically has a passion for pool and therefore he went down that path. He needed something to latch onto, and it just became pool. So yeah. It's kind of a cautionary tale, but without like a super tragic ending that makes us all depressed.
No, it's more of a silly ending.
Yeah. So.
But it makes, at least the silly ending makes the opening scene of a dead guy being paged in heaven a little bit easier to swallow.
It gives it a purpose, because if we didn't get that scene at the start, we got this at the end with just Jesse, it'd be like, wait, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
So yeah, the original ending that I heard read out, because he kind of Batmans out the scene in this, meaning that Jesse turns around and he's just gone. In the original ending, apparently he walked towards the door and like faded away. I think that would have made more sense in that original ending to not have the heaven stuff. Which is fine. But yeah, it's a game of pool. It's a pretty good episode.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. It raises a lot of interesting talking points, if nothing else. Even if I don't think the ending kind of like goes down the path that I think is the most satisfying, but that's
all right.
That's not a huge deal in this sense. Twilight Zone at its best often makes us talk about ideas, and I think this is one where it's about the human ideas of like the just his obsession and his drive to be the best. Like those things are pretty universal, and we just use the Twilight Zone to put a dead person in the story, so it's fine. Which interestingly, the trumpet one also had a dead person talking to him.
Yeah, actually, they're very similar.
Yeah. In fact, yeah, even the whole trumpet thing is that he's the best. Yeah, you know what? There's a lot of similarities.
there's some parallels here. They do that though, right? Because the one guy who was in the robot episode was in another robot episode.
That's true.
The Lonely and the Mighty Casey.
Is Jack Klugman going to be like, every time there's an episode about someone who's obsessed with being the best at something? So we've seen him be a trumpet player and a pool player. What's next? Is he going to be like, I'm going to be the best car mechanic that ever was?
We can only hope.
All right, so obviously Rod Serling did show up at the end. At least he did on my version of the episode to talk about what's coming next.
Yeah, he was very excited about the star of the next one.
Yeah. He talks about Peter Falk. You call it? Yeah, he mentioned. So this is called The Mirror, and this is the description on IMDb. A Central American revolutionary comes into the possession of a mirror that shows him his potential assassins.
Yeah, it's got Columbo in it.
Interesting. It's funny how we're kind of bouncing between episodes here because we had a Civil War kind of focused episode last time. So it's interesting that we're now bouncing to another warlike situation. This makes me think a lot of the one with the soldier who was seeing how people died in the mirror. Testament of Purple or something like that it was called. This is making me
Testament, yeah.
Yeah, this is making me think a lot of that episode, but maybe this is going to be more about the paranoia of this one guy who's like seeing assassins coming left and right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a stretch to assume that this next episode is going to be primarily about paranoia, if nothing else. But yeah, so yeah, there you go. So that's coming next time. So by all means, let us know what you thought of this episode of Twilight Zone in the comments. Hit the old like button there. That helps us out a lot as the free way to support us. But of course, if you want to support us financially, how can you do that, Tara?
You can check out our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/MilesPlusTV. And if you donate as little as $1 per month, you will get access to bonus episodes of other shows we do, including the ACE, the Atomic Cinema Experiment, which is our science fiction movie review show. And if you donate $5 per month, you will get access to these Twilight Zone reviews 1 week early. So please check it out. Thank you.
Flawless and, dare I say, confident.
You dare. You dare.
So there you go. Also catch us on Twitter at mild_fuzz for channel updates. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV in the Twilight Zone.